everybody. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be getting into Before the 90 Days, Season 6, Episode 3, Overboard. I thought it was a pretty interesting episode. It was a little bit slow or filling, something like that. We picked up with Amanda and Razvan first. It's the next morning. Remember last week she said that they weren't going to consummate their relationship that night. But when we see him, he has a nice hickey on his neck, right? So most people assumed that they hooked up, but they didn't. They had some nice makeout session or whatever. She said she still feels weird, with a new man, in bed with her, and she's not waking up to the kids running in and all the commotion of that. So it's weird, but it's kind of nice. It's nice to get those breaks. He starts teasing her because she wears socks to bed, which I would probably do that too. I definitely am not a sock to bed type of girl, but whatever you're comfortable with, right? He does start to mention that it was nice being close to her and all the kissing and all of that, but it made it hard for him. So he's kind of expressing a little frustration that they didn't fully seal the deal and he was left, ready and willing, but nowhere to go. She does joke with him about he could have taken his tissues off to the bathroom anytime, which, that's true. He said, he's trying to make her feel comfortable since it's the first man since her husband. And he's talking to her about this. And she says, she wouldn't have kissed him and done all of that if she wasn't comfortable. But, I feel like she's holding back a lot of her feelings to not ruin the mood. And then we go into the interview and she definitely says she feels guilty and it's almost like she's cheating, but she's not. And it's a lot harder for her than she thought. And, it's easy for us to say that obviously it was going to be hard, right? But at the same time, you don't know until you get into the situation. So they're talking about they're going to Old Town for the day, and it's her first full day there. So, they get ready, and Amanda starts talking about a phone call she had with her son, Junior. And it kind of caught her off guard, right? Kids are great for that. And he asked to talk to Razvan, and he said, my dad had died. And that caught her and him off guard, and she isn't sure why he would say that. And for me, I think he's saying that so Razvan knows, look, I have a dad. He just died. And it's kind of like when single moms, if you start dating and your kid's well, I have a dad. It's he knows this man's trying to come in. And he might not be ready for someone new. And he's a baby. I think he's 4. He doesn't know what else to say. But now she's second guessing even coming, if it was the right thing, if it was selfish. And that's another thing moms deal with is, are we making decisions best for them or, just because of what we want? And I think a good parent asks those kinds of things, am I messing up my kids? She's finally making some sense to me. Well, Razvan is well, of course you should come. You're a great mom and this is her chance to be happy. And he thinks the kids are going to be fine, which he's excuse me. He's never met them. He doesn't know anything about them. He's just saying they're fine because he's selfish and he's trying to pretend to be supportive and he's not. If she needs to go home because this is going to traumatize her children, he needs to be okay with that. So, you know, they get out, they start walking, and she says, like, are you going to be upset if I leave early? You know, like if I have to go home. And he said, yeah, he'll be upset, right? And she says, well, even if, my kids are hurt. And he says, yeah. And he's like, we only have 3 weeks and they're going to go by fast. And she says, like, yeah, they're going to go by fast to you. Not to them, it's not. 3 weeks could be an eternity. He said it's fine if that's necessary. He'll be hurt, but, he's trying to understand. He doesn't understand. She wants to drop it and enjoy the city, but she's really distracted and feeling guilty. It's a lot for her to take in emotionally. And, it's all starting to hit her what she's actually doing. Like, she feels he doesn't understand that she's doing her best to try to get to know him while also doing what's best for her kids. Like, she's not trying to cause them any more issues. She's trying to help them. And he's hoping that she can just start to have fun. He's showing her traditional Romanian clothes and he's dancing and he's trying to have a great time. And she's just not into it. She's very, like, meh and, like, melancholy and sad. So they decide that they're going to sit down and have a drink and toast to the future, right? He tells her he really wants to ask her something, and she seems nervous, and he starts reaching in her pocket, and she's like, oh, no, don't do it. But it turns out he pulled a Tom from Tom and Darcy, and he's like, here's a key to my house, right? And she's like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be back, anytime soon to, like, need a key. And then he says, well, okay, I'll go there. And he lays this bombshell on her that he went and got a tourist visa and never mentioned it to her. My first thought to this was like, you mean to tell me she could have just not taken this trip and he could have came to America and, like, stayed at a hotel and they could have got to know each other that way, when the kids were asleep, anything. She could have waited on this trip, right? If he was going to do this. Anyone else feel that way? So he's all excited and he's like, yeah, I can go there, like, right when you leave here. And she's like, no, that's not realistic. And honestly, her reaction was so sudden and quick that it made me feel good because she went with her gut. She needs to talk to her kids. She needs to think of their feelings. Like, that comes first to her, right? And she hasn't even told him he's more than a friend. And now she's going to go there for 3 weeks. And he immediately wants to come stay with them, right? So he's kind of telling her she needs to, like, start talking to them and letting them know. I really think he's completely wrong. And he's been disguising his, like, selfishness as, like, compassion. But it's showing through. It only lasted half an episode or whatever. She's telling him it's going to be hard if you come into our lives and then you leave, and then that's another man who left their lives. I mean, their dad passed away, but still. And he just doesn't get it. And I think reality is starting to sink in with Amanda to where it's all hitting her how serious this is and that she's there and she's going to have to tell her kids. And obviously her kids aren't ready for that. And they probably weren't even ready for her to leave for 3 weeks. It still has been less than a year since they lost their dad. And everybody needs to mourn that. And I can just tell by her body language, She's always like red and flushed. She is fighting with herself that deep down she knows this isn't right for her. So I'm hoping that she finds the strength to recognize that and stick with putting her kids first and go on a healing journey and just be the best versions of themselves that they can be. I think that's how she, honors her husband, is by being a great mom. And it seems like she really is. Even though, like, it was questionable with her going there and, the quickness of everything, the responses she had to him were perfect and spot on, and she wasn't, like, being manipulated by him to fit his agenda. She was putting their needs first. And I respect that, and I gotta support it for as long as we see it, right? Moving on from them, we're going to go to our new cast member. Her name is Misha. She's 43 and from Minnesota. When we meet her, she is in a group of people. They're all praying. And right away I was like, I'm pretty sure that's Catholic, right? But I just mental noted it. They're praying. She's very into it. And then we find out she works for the Catholic Church, helping people connect with God before they die. And that's beautiful. I think that's really cool. I didn't know that that's a job. And it seems like something like people might need. So that's really cool. A new job I learned about. She wasn't raised religious until she had an awakening like 10 years ago. She was vacuuming and she had a vision of two suns suspended in the sky and in front of her window, and she was so terrified, and she fell to her knees, and the little voice in her head told her to pray. So she started to pray, and then she got the Bible. She says she read the whole thing, ended up at the Catholic Church, and here we are, right? She fell in love with a foreign exchange student in high school and ended up moving to Sweden with him when they were very young. Obviously, like, after high school, they went. She had 2 daughters. And then they ended up in a divorce. I'm not sure that she got too much into that. But after her divorce, she became a party girl, right? And then we go to her closet, and she's pulling out, like, her outfits, and she's like, oh, when I went on a date in this one, this guy was terrible, and this guy took me on a jet when I wore this, and suddenly, like, during this process, when she became religious, and she's trying to date these same types of men, they thought she was talking about religion and God too much. And just people in general felt that. So she felt super alone. So she turned to the internet, and that's where she met Nikola. He is 46, and he lives in Israel with his mom. It's hard to live with her because she doesn't hear well. And then we get to a scene of them, like, arguing in the kitchen, right? He lives with her because in Israel, according to him, it's tradition to live with your parents till marriage. And he's also devoted to the Lord and also wasn't raised Catholic. But it was his grandma who taught him. The rest of his family, they're not religious. He says that only 2% of people in Israel are Catholic. So that makes dating hard. I'm not sure if that's the actual statistic, but that's according to him. He's never expected to be with a divorced American woman, but here we are. He says they met 7 years ago on social media, and he told her she said he will be her Jesus boy. So that's his nickname. he supported her in leaving her television career and like devoting herself to God full time. And it took them like years into talking before they would admit they had feelings for each other, right? So now, after 7 years, she's flying to Israel to meet them. She's hoping they get engaged. Obviously, her friends and family are worried, and they're worried about her relationship, that she's going for 2 weeks, and they're worried that Nicola is a virgin. The reason he's a virgin is because he's celibate until marriage, which a lot of religions do or try to enforce. But he's never been married, so he never had a sexual partner. But she's worried because she needs lots of affection and love, and like, she's hoping that he can provide that without the sexual part. Her friends do not understand what she sees in him. And honestly, we were all thinking it. Because she is beautiful, and he's not a bad looking guy, but he just seems only religious, and that's like all he has to him. You know, in my opinion, I feel like. So, also it's concerning because he doesn't have like much of a dating history, so he doesn't have like experiences to learn how to have a relationship or what they are. So she's gonna probably have to teach him everything. Like, they're encouraging her to wait on this engagement, but nobody listens to the friends and family, so she's not going to be doing that. You know? They want to get married, and in the Catholic Church, divorce isn't an option, so they're going to have to trust God that this is like what it is, and this is who they're supposed to be with. When they circle back to them, Nicola is fishing with his friend. He's telling him he's excited to meet her after 7 years. Apparently, his grandpa, his great-grandpa, his great-great-great-grandpa, and his dad all fished in this same spot. It's his ancestral fishing ground. His best friend's name is Rasim. He calls him his rosary warrior. Rosary warrior. He's the religious person in his life, right? And even his friend is having a hard time believing that Nicola could get a woman like Misha because she's out of his league. And I was like, well, thank goodness someone mentioned this, right? We were all thinking it. Nicola goes into how he hasn't kissed or touched a woman in 16 years. That was his last relationship. It didn't go very far. And, you know, he's celibate to marriage, whether he gets married at 46, 58, 12. No, I don't know about 12, but you know what I mean. It doesn't matter the age. He's going to be a virgin. And then they bring up that she was divorced before, and that he would probably prefer a virgin that, like, wasn't divorced, right? And then Nicola is saying, like, he doesn't like that she's not a virgin, but the Bible says when Jesus enters your life, then, like, all your past sins are forgiven. So, in Nicola's mind, she's still a virgin, right? Or she's now a virgin, reborn again. His mom wants a virgin girl for him, like, so they can have kids, and like, he knows that his mother isn't gonna approve of Misha, so he's just not gonna tell her. His mom knows that he's talking to a woman, but he just says he's talking to a friend. But he says that's a Middle Eastern thing, not a religious thing, that they want to marry and get married to virgins. But he knows this is God's plan. So their segment is really like held up on this virginity thing and this purity thing, and like all of this. And, it's a whole different world to me. I have studied other different religions. I know a lot about them. But personally, I don't have one. I would say I'm spiritual, and trust the universe and all of that. Um, that's a different topic. So, this like whole virginity purity thing is new to me. Not new, but it's like I never seen it so hyper focused. Anyway, Misha and her cat video called Nicola, and he says he hates cats and that cat ain't sleeping on his bed and all of that. Well, then we find out that earlier Misha had an annulment meeting with the church and that it was very intense. And even though she's legally divorced, she has to be granted an annulment by the church in order to marry again. And they have a criteria they go by. If it doesn't work, they're basically not going to be able to marry because it would be sin for them to marry if the church doesn't annul them. So they can only be together with the K-1 visa, him coming here, and an annulment. We meet her daughters, Maria and Savea. I really hope I'm saying them right. They're looking at clothes for her trip, and she's talking to them about their feelings about this, and they think it's weird that they might end up living with a man they never met. Whenever they do talk to him, it's awkward. He prays, he talks about God. He doesn't ask them anything else. They don't feel like he tries to get to know them or they know him. And the girls are worried he's going to judge them too much for everything they do. If they go on a date, whatever it is, their clothing. And the daughter says he's not our parent, so he doesn't have a say. And now these girls are almost legally adults at this point, judging, I'm sure it's said on the screen how old they were. But they're right, he shouldn't have a say. And Misha loves him, but knows he has to accept the daughters, even if they're not as devout as them. I really have no hope for these two. I agree with the friend. She's out of his league. I think she has one image of him, and then when she gets to meet him, she'll see another. I think the daughters are right that he will judge them, and I don't think that's fair to the daughters. So, let me know what you think. Do we have hope for these guys? The next person we're going to get into here is Tyree. As we all know, he's still dealing with the catfish situation. He's meeting up with his sister LaShanti, and he's saying it's been real hard the last couple days because of what the producers are saying about Carmela being Christian. He's still processing. He's in denial. The sister's asking if he thinks that she's real. He does because he hasn't blocked her. And he's saying he has a connection with whoever it was he was talking to. The sister, is like, oh, have you reversed image searched the pictures? And of course he hasn't. He doesn't want to see if they pop up. Also, he claimed to have been someone who watched Catfish, and that's the first thing they do. So, they reverse image search it. Nothing pops up, and he's all excited because, maybe she is real. But on the show Catfish, a lot of times those reverse image searches don't show up anything, and they're still fake. Oh, I stole them from someone's Facebook. I stole them from this. You never know. So, he thinks that's a good sign. I want to know how many... This is 3 episodes in, right? How long do we have to watch this man be delusional? Is he on the whole season? I don't know. So he tells his sister the producers told him they have a message, and he thinks it'll be easier to read the message than to hear the voice. basically, right? So he pulls out the message, and the message says they can't video call because he's not the girl in the photos. They know it's messed up to lie to Tyree. They've been lying for 5 years. At first it was just to get money, but then they started liking him, and they can't be with him. And they feel bad, but they needed money because, they're poor wherever. We don't even know that this guy is really from Barbados, I believe. Like, nobody knows where he's from. He could be in Connecticut. You know what I'm saying? So, they love him, but they can't be with him. And this leaves Tyree more confused now than ever. Because he says he can't be with him, but he loves him. It meant a lot to hear the person loves him. He wants more answers, so he's not going to block them quite yet. We close that out with his sister, worrying that Carmela is going to message her brother, and he's just going to get roped back into it, fly to Barbados a second time, not meet someone, keep sending money. She doesn't have a lot of faith that he's not going to fall back into this, and neither am I. But at this point, I just would like to see something more than him still trying to accept this. And are we going to see him go over there or not? Or are we going to get a new cast in because his story is over? It could have been over last week. And I like him. He's a good guy. He's funny. I feel bad for him. But I don't need to sit here and watch someone being in denial and taking advantage of. I would watch my own life. Ha! Just kidding. But yeah, so hopefully next week we get some movement with that one. So we're going to move on to Riley from Pennsylvania. He's packing for his trip. He's leaving today to go see Violet in Vietnam. He's nervous to meet her after 2 years, and we find out today is her birthday, the day he's flying out. And he got her pearls, he's coming prepared, so that's good. She seems like she'd be offended if he wasn't. He says he's not going to go with the private investigator for now, but he will in the future, if need be. The PI's in the back pocket, right? If he's not feeling it. We meet his bestie, Alexa, and she's his friend, watching his puppy dog and giving him a ride to the airport. She makes a joke, hopefully she shows up. And he's like, yeah, I would hope so, after all that traveling and buying a ticket and everything. Then he starts telling her about the text messages from Violet to his dad. We find out there was 150 texts trying to get this man's dad on her side. Making him look out to be a piece of garbage, right? And Alexa's like, dude, that's a huge red flag, right? Yeah, she knows. He says he still has to go find out, if she's the right person for him, and that he's going to get a PI if need be. And she says, that's a big red flag too, right? If he needs to hire a private investigator for his significant other, probably shouldn't be with them. And she's right. Also, it's just another piece of advice from friends and family on this show that no one takes into account at all. So she drops him off. She tells the camera she's afraid for him, especially after finding out about the messages with his dad. But she's still going to be supportive. He's hoping things work out. He wants to be a husband and a stepfather. So while Riley's on his flights and he's making friends and talking to everybody, we get to meet Violet. She's buying veggies. She's haggling with the vendor. We find out she's a math teacher. And she says she's a sweet woman who is strong and always gets her way. She's in Ho Chi Minh City, which is full of culture and science, and it's the biggest city in Vietnam. However, it's really hard for her to date. She was married for 15 years and had 2 daughters, but he wasn't emotionally or financially supportive, so she divorced him. That made her a strong and independent woman. But the culture in Vietnam is very patriarchal, according to her. And the men don't care for her because she isn't interested in being controlled. So she decided to try dating foreign men. And that's what brought her to where we are today with Riley. She's liked him because he was cute and he had a cute little dog on his profile picture. And she likes dogs, you know. He makes her smile and laugh. So anyway, she meets up with her friends. She says her family knows about Riley, but not her friends. So this is the first time they're gonna hear of it. She announces that she's like dating someone from the US, that she's known for 2 years, and they can't believe it. They're like, 2 years? I thought we were besties. Like, how did you not tell me this? But she tells him he's funny and diligent and cute. They ask her if they ever fight, and she said 180 times. And they always block each other and unblock each other. And that she likes to keep, like, pushing at him and poking at him. And sometimes, you know, that causes them to fight. And a lot of times they fight because he doesn't trust her. So she wants Riley to prove to her that he can trust her. And I'm definitely sure that the private investigator he has a retainer is going to help that. I feel like these two are going to be the next explosive couple. So hopefully next week we get to see them meet up and see how that goes. I definitely get explosive vibes. It's going to be good. Let me know what you guys think about Riley and Violet. Finally, we're going to get into Gino and Jasmine. You know, we start off with them back in the car, and thank the Lord that Jasmine got her lip gloss back in order. You know, it was all over the place last time we saw them. And, you know, Gino's admiring the city. You know, Panama is second home. The mountains are beautiful. And Jasmine has to go be nasty. She's like, you know, showing her boobs and like, look at these mountains. And he's like, yeah. You know, the cab driver's right there. And she's just being disgusting for no reason, right? He's sitting here thinking about being excited to get their relationship back on track before the K1 visa goes through. And she's just has the D on the brain, I guess. They're headed to Jasmine's new penthouse suite, and it is beautiful. Definitely. We meet her sister Liz. She's adorable. She looks real young. Not sure how old she is. We meet the dog Coco, and he's ecstatic. He or she is ecstatic to see Gino, so that's cute. She wastes no time in wanting to show Gino the bedroom, so they go in the bedroom, and she shows him the balcony, and she's showing him this man-made island that they made for all the super rich people in Panama, and how she gets to look out at them now, and those are her neighbors, and she just wanted that so badly. And he says it's breathtaking, but is it worth $3,000? And she's like, well, the visa's coming anytime, it's okay. And she's not understanding how much like $3,000 is a month to live somewhere, you know. And you could just tell he doesn't like it. That's not him. He's very, like, even if he has a lot of money, you wouldn't know it. He would probably still shop at the same places the rest of us do, and, you know, go to the same chain restaurants, because he's frugal and he doesn't have the same values. So he goes into how, like, he met her and she wasn't into money. She knew how to, like, budget and save. She was saving money on that lipstick. Now he doesn't know if he can keep up with her when she moves to Michigan. And Michigan surely looks nothing like this gorgeous penthouse suite in Panama overlooking all the rich people. She asked him if he likes it, and whenever he lies, he squeaks really loud. And he's like, yeah, of course. Yeah, of course I like it. So he's clearly lying. She's like, let's try the bed. We gotta try the bed. You know, and she's pressuring him. He doesn't want to try the bed, but she makes him try the bed. So then she's like, let me massage you, and she's taking off his shoes, and she's just telling him a lot of, you know, suggestive things. And he's laying there and he's like, I'm just trying to enjoy the bed. And she's offended after she told him to enjoy the bed. And she's really coming on strong. And, like, she needs to play hard to get a little, or let it happen naturally, right? Like, she is putting this pressure on this man immediately to, like, have sex with her. That's all she cares about, right? You know, the pressure she puts on him and all this, like, penthouse suite jasmine energy and all of that is making him question their future. So he rolls over, tells her to stop asking him, you know, the same things. You know, she's disappointed, but she can't be mad at him, like, because he doesn't want to have sex. That's a choice. If it was the other way around and he was mad at her, people would be in an uproar. So, you know, double standard, right? When we circle back to them, Jasmine's, like, pacing and hovering over Gino in his sleep. Did he move? Did he snore? Is he having a sexy dream? You know, she's just watching him. But she does decide to apologize to him for making him uncomfortable. So at least she knows that she was wrong for that. I still want to know where she got that awful lipstick. I don't wear lipstick, but I do know that they make a lot of makeup now that, like, does not move. Like my makeup. It'll be on till I wake up if I leave it, you know? And I know they make stuff that doesn't, like, melt and bleed everywhere. And she's spending a lot of money on everything else. So I'm just curious what kind it is so I can never buy it for anybody. So anyway, they go to make dinner and she's like, you know, plant-based meatballs and you won't even be able to tell. And she wants him to peel the potatoes. He's like, well, where's the peeler? She hands him, like, a machete of a knife. And is like, here's a plate and a machete. Peel the potatoes. He's like, you know, I need a cutting board. He recognizes the danger in the situation. He's getting annoyed. She's getting annoyed. He doesn't look like he's ever manually peeled a potato with a knife. It's been years since I did that. I used to peel cucumbers and, you know, everything with a knife. But not everyone didn't have a peeler growing up. And if she's so, like, annoyed, she could do it herself. You know, and she's trying to rush him along, and he's like, I don't even have proper equipment. Like, don't rush me. And then once he finally gets through these 2 potatoes, she's like, here, peel this carrot. And he's like, no way, not with that equipment. And then she gets mad and she's like, peel the beet now. And this woman does not get it through her thick hair that he cannot peel things this way. He is scared and it is dangerous to him. And he wants the proper equipment. So then she says, she can't help it the house wasn't furnished with a peeler and a cutting board. Clearly she just never cooks there, right? At this point, Gino's had enough. He storms off. I'm surprised he didn't peel her at this point. Peel that hair he bought her, right? So, she is like crying, blowing a gasket. Jasmine's still like, I'm not cooking without proper equipment. If you like drinking games, like, drink every time someone says this. Every time Gino says, I don't have proper equipment, take a drink or something, you won't remember the rest of the episode. And she's crying. She's like, just because you had to peel a few potatoes. And it's like, you gave him all the vegetables in Panama to peel with this machete of a knife. And you're rushing him. He's saying he feels she doesn't listen. She walks all over him. It's time for him to stand up for himself. He's practicing with little things like peeling potatoes to, get up to the prenup, I guess. Jasmine, feels hurt because, she tried to plan it out to be a fun moment making dinner, and it just went terrible. She's bawling her eyes out. She just wants to make him happy. He comes out to talk to her. He explains that he's upset because he didn't want to cook without the proper equipment, right? And she apologizes, and he's like, don't be sorry. And she's like, asks if he wants to eat, and he's like, no, I just want to go to bed. And she's like, okay, my angel, let me tuck you in. And then she walks him to the room, just let this man be alone. Anyway, then they go in there and she goes, are you changing into your sleeping hat? Are we surprised that he sleeps in a hat? I thought last season that he, took it off when he slept, but maybe he's, wearing it full time now. She's worried, they're not going to have a good time or fix their issues, and they're just going to get worse. That's kind of when we leave them, and, she's not wrong, but she's also suffocating him with pressure to fix these issues, and she doesn't realize that her attitude and her pressuring him and her, financial domination of him is causing certain parts of him to not work. And once she, fixes that, I don't think he'll have a problem. And I think she's just overbearing and needs to give this man space to breathe. So, I'm wishing Gino luck, even though he doesn't deserve it. And I hope that Jasmine, gets what she wants and finds someone who's more sexually her speed. So, that's all we got for this week. I'm excited for next week. It looked like there's going to be a new couple, so stay tuned for that. Like and subscribe and comment on my video, please. And thanks for sticking around if you made it to the end. And have a good day. Bye.